Good morning, everybody. It's another beautiful, still morning. The sun is yet to come up, and the tide is right out, so I'll probably go for a swim later today when the tide's back in. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you a bit of a story. About 15 years ago, while I was still living in Canada, I started making savoury condiment sauces, and I used to gather wild fruit from abandoned trees in the area where I lived. There were people's fruit trees that they didn't want to deal with, or there was old orchards, and so I used to gather ripening fruit, and I started making these sauces, and I got a really good feedback from family and friends, and so I decided to venture into markets, and I would do fairs and markets just on weekends or occasions like Christmas markets and things like that, and that went really well, and there was good continued good feedback, and so this gave me the encouragement to take it a step further, and I think it was a marketing course on food products, how to bring them into the sort of mainstream, into retail, and so I went full throttle into this venture, and so my recipes, they changed considerably in that it was, well, I had to, because I was making in volume, I had to source fruit that was ready processed. So I was able to do that, and it was within the province, so that was still a good thing. And so but one of the ingredients that I had was lemongrass. Excuse me. And because living in Canada, lemongrass doesn't grow there, and it's not always easy to find in the off season. And so I was trying to find something, I guess, prepared in volume, just the raw ingredient. And I came across it was called natural flavouring anyway, and I questioned this, and I asked the supplier. I said, well, what is in natural flavouring? I mean, usually when you get an ingredient or a product, you are given the list of ingredients that are within it. And they said they couldn't disclose the ingredients. And I just thought, well, that makes no sense. Like, how can you legally do that? Because that was part of the food regulations, food producing regulations in Canada anyway. And I think I don't know about in New Zealand, but I think that applies. Anyway, so I kept hunting, and so I put that aside because I thought, well, that's not making sense. And so I did actually find a powdered lemongrass. So it was like dried lemongrass that had been turned to powder, and that was perfect, and it worked really well. Anyway, I just did more research on natural flavouring, and what I found is that it's a loophole for companies to avoid having to say, that natural flavour is contains chemical compounds and synthetics, and I think the sort of the way they can get around it is that it's derived from whatever it is that they're trying to represent. Anyway, this just sort of brought up for me, I was thinking yesterday about authenticity, and I know this is a word that gets overused, but it has, there is a real version, and there is a authentic version of food. So I was just thinking about food and quality of food, and really how much of what we eat now is inauthentic, whether it's highly, ultra processed and packaged, and even just thinking on, our fruit and vegetables that we can get at the grocery store. I mean, for sure, they're, granted they're not packaged, and they're probably at the least processed stage that you could get food. But even these, looking at something like a tomato or apples or fruit, and a lot of vegetables, things are picked before they're ripe so they can be shipped, and also they're bred, they're grown to be a uniform shape and size, and so that they can be harvested easily. And it is all about profit. And I'm not against making profit, but when foods are compromised, this is where, things start to fall apart for me. And actually, sort of getting back to my story on my condiment sources, I think, so what happened, besides the ingredient not being authentic, in my process of manufacturing, I had to make some compromises to make it affordable to make this product, because there's shipping costs, there's packaging, labeling. They were in glass bottles, so that's very heavy to ship. And then there's distribution in supermarkets, right? And so as the producer, which is kind of like being a bit like a farmer in a way, and I totally get their point of view, when you make a value-added product, which is a great way to use a product, say like in New Zealand, there's like wool. People are, turning wool into blankets or whatever. And you make a value-added product, but it has to be within a price range that the end user is willing to pay. And so if we're talking about mainstream supermarkets, the product that's in the bottle is actually quite compromised. And and while I had, moderate success with this product, it lost its soul for me. It just, I felt I wasn't being authentic about what I was making, and what my story changed is because I came back to care for my elderly mother at the end of 2019 back in New Zealand, and so I folded that business anyway, and I moved on. But it was just a real, it wasn't a complete eye-opening for me. I knew, about processed food, but I think the fact that the food became compromised because it was about how to make money, and to make something that's authentic, delicious, natural ingredients, small batches, etc., it does have a higher price because it's more labor intensive. There's less chemicals, different numbers, and the less ingredients. I think if you get past sort of 6 ingredients or 10 ingredients, you can start to question what is in the food. But you'll notice if you look at a lot of food products, the words natural flavour, it could be potato chips, it could be canned vegetables, it could yeah, anything that's processed, really. I mean, not like dried, not like rice or lentils or something like that, but yeah, anything that's had processing. You start to look at a lot of even teas, herbal teas have natural flavour. So if you start looking at different foods and reading the labels in that way, you'll get to see that a lot of food has natural flavour. Yeah, so I had made some notes, and so I just wanted to refer to these. I think the last point is what I wanted to make about um, uh, eating authentically is, or inauthentically, if we're going to eat processed food or food that's compromised, even fruit and vegetables that they've lost their nutrient value because they've been grown for convenience, not for health. We end up compromising our immune systems, and in turn, which our gut microbiome is part of is a big. It's the kind of, I think it's the hub of our immune system, right? Oh, the sun is coming up right now. Oh, it's stunning. I'll see if I can turn this around. Look, see, you see that? So beautiful. Oh, look at that. It's so cool to see the sun just as a fiery ball that when you can look at it like this. Love it. Sorry about the wiggling. I'm just trying to get this tripod. I've got it resting on a log, and it's wow, so beautiful. Yeah, so yeah, just I know it food has become more expensive, unfairly so, but I think this is also an opportunity for us to support our local communities or grow something, even if it's a few herbs, even if it's like spinach or Swiss chard or carrots or a few potatoes or an apple tree. Just doing something in our own backyard that we have control over ourselves, and it's empowering. To grow our own food, harvest our own food, and eat from something that we've grown. We've made, as it were. And so I just think it's empowering, and it's an opportunity for people to reclaim some of their intuitive knowing about what is right for our bodies. And that sun, looks like the moon now. It's going behind a wispy cloud, so you get to actually look at it, and the reflection on the water is so beautiful. Wow, it's massive. So I hope this has been informative, and yeah, I'm not trying to scare people, but it's something that I think good food for me has been a bit of a passion for a number of decades, and I'm always learning. What I thought was healthy 10, 20 years ago, and it was relatively healthy, but for my own personal journey, I've had to make some quite radical adjustments in a positive way. So I hope this information has been enlightening. Be yourself, enjoy yourself, love yourself, trust yourself. Enjoy this beautiful day.